Hey everybody, welcome to the Live Younger Longer podcast, a podcast solely about longevity in every aspect of our life. So some people think about living younger longer only from an aesthetic or a nutrition side, but I truly believe that it really comes from, a financial side, a faith side. Faith is a massive part of my life. I really believe it comes into even our mindset, how we view we're aging. I remember a quote by Clint Eastwood. He was being asked one time, they were like, man, how do you do all that you do, right? Like, how do you do all this? You're directing, you're acting. I don't know how old he is. He's well into his 80s. How does he do all of this? And he made a comment. He said, well, every day I just wake up and decide I'm not going to let the old man in, and I never forget that, because your mental part of it is really huge. And so as we get into this, guys, I'm going to play this quick clip because it reminded me of the game of 3 rules. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the game of 3 rules. And this is really important on how you view life and the correct mental attitude of how you do it. So check this clip out real quick, and then we're going to get into the game of 3 rules.
Complaining and criticizing doesn't just make you annoying. It actually makes you less successful. Here's why. Every time you complain, you strengthen that pathway in your brain. It's neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So if you're always focused on what's wrong, your brain gets really good at finding more problems. You literally train yourself to see the negative everywhere you go. And it doesn't just stop there. Studies show that constant stress and negative thinking can actually shrink your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that controls focus, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Translation: every time you complain, you're weakening the very muscle you need to perform at your very best. Now add this. Negativity doesn't just hurt your brain, it hurts your brand. No one wants to work with, hire, or invest in the person who's always pointing fingers. Negativity makes you less attractive in business, in relationships, in life. But here's the good news. The opposite is also true. Gratitude, optimism, and solution-focused thinking actually strengthen your prefrontal cortex. They build the neural pathways that keep you sharp, creative, and resilient. That's why high performers train their brain to see opportunities instead of problems. So here's the choice. Keep wiring your brain to be a victim, or rewire it to be a creator. You don't get what you want in life. You get what your brain is wired to look for.
All right. So that really made me think about how we view life, right? You can view your life as a victor or a victim, right? As somebody that is always, I don't want to say the loser, right? But always, everything's bad, always happening to them. Woe is me, right? The pessimistic side to it, or the optimism side of it. How we choose life. And when she talked about those neural pathways that are being connected, I've seen this out of coaching people for well over 15 years now. It is so true that the people that are constantly problem oriented, they find the problem in the bad in every single thing they do, right? It's like everything very pessimistic. My mother-in-law is one of these kind of people. There were times we got hit with a really bad hurricane. She lost everything. And this was not the first time in a big storm she has lost everything. So here she is. She's starting over again. But, honestly, by blessing and the grace of God, we had a rental property that came open. It was a nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And we said, listen, live there, save your money. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to do anything, right? Just let's help you get back on your feet. But there was always an issue. There was always a problem. There was always something, right? She found a problem in no matter what, all the time. There's always something. And, when she was talking about how those neural pathways, they get created and they go, you can train your brain, right, to find the problems. Now, we're our most successful people out. It's not what I can't do. It's what can I do, right? And we're not going to be problem oriented. We're going to be solution oriented. We're going to say, okay, what can we do out of this? How can we get to a point to where we're finding the solution in it? COVID was a massive part for our team. Again, we've been in the direct sales and network marketing space for well over 16 years now. And it gets to a point where when COVID hit, there was a lot of things we couldn't do. We couldn't control what the government was doing. We couldn't control the mandates. We couldn't control all the garbage that was going on. And so I looked at my team. I was like, we're not going to focus on what we can't do. There's a lot of things we can't do. What can we do? We can go help serve the masses, right? We can help all these people that were deemed non-essential, right, to make money from home. Our company, we controlled our own supply chains. We do all of our own manufacturing and distribution. So we were able to keep up. We never went down. We weren't waiting on boats offshore. Remember that chaos where so many companies were waiting for their product. They were just sitting offshore. We didn't have to worry about that. And so we said, okay, let's help people still get their nutritional needs. Maybe, a lot of times during chaos or when you're kind of locked up, you can't pamper yourself. So a lot of people just wanted stuff to make themselves feel better from an aesthetic side. And there was a lot of people that needed to make money. They had babies to feed, right? And so we said, okay, let's look at the boutique owners, the salon owners, the massage therapists, anybody that's self-employed or anyone that was deemed non-essential that has a client list. Let's show them how to still monetize that client list from home. And so while there are certain segments of the economy that dipped like this, our business shot up. I mean, it went through the roof, right? I mean, it literally went vertical because we focused on what could we do. It was a mindset. Now, even though we saw a well over 6-figure increase of our income that year alone, there was a lot of people that quit during that time. There was a lot of people that didn't participate. They saw a little bump, but not like we did. There was a lot of people that never even knew it happened, right? They were just so focused on being scared all the time, right? Being fearful, being scared, man, like living in this fear bubble constantly. And sadly, if you look at how things are mentally, why is it today you still see people walking around in masks? Why do you still see people in their car by themselves in masks? Why? They have developed those neural pathways to where they're in this fear state all the time. And it's become, I believe, a part of their identity, right? That's how you have to be cautious of what are you feeding yourself. If you're on freaking X all the time, just scrolling through negative, you know what's going to happen? Your brain is going to be focused to that. That's what you're going to be focused on. I use social media really for one tool. I want to create value for people. And I also want to create conversations with people because we're in a part of our business where we're scaling very fast. And I believe this business and our business is an opportunity and a blessing. And over the next 4 years, because of some new technology we're launching, it's going to scale like it's never has before. And so I know it's a platform that I can use to create conversations, to provide an opportunity for people. Now, I know our business can be for anybody, but it's not for everybody. And that's their decision. It's not mine. It's not going to stop us. But it's those what kind of neural pathways are you creating in your head? If you take an inventory of yourself, are you looking at yourself thinking and really thinking, am I solution oriented? Am I problem oriented? Do I constantly find the negative or the problems in everything? Or do I look for the positives and the solutions? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be grateful? I've said this a million times. Gratitude is a secret weapon, guys. If you are not spending your life grateful, again, this map behind me, I have over 32 pins in that map. I pin the countries every time I go to a different country. And I've been to countries. We go every year to Africa where literally people have built a city within a landfill. They built it within a landfill because they were there just scratching for, they call it scratching for anything, food, clothing, whatever they could find. But yet when we go over there, most of these kids that we run into, they just have a smile on their face. They're living in a landfill. Before we started doing ministry over there, they never had a toilet. They've never had showers. They just use a little bit of water and just kind of do a little sponge bath. They don't have a lot of these things. And yet we're here in America and we're probably one of the most gripiest people out there, right? Hell, half the people gripe against this amazing country because they've never seen the other side of it. But they developed, and again, what are you listening to? What is that circle of people around you? What are those influences coming in you? There's not a reason, or it's not of coincidence that there's that saying that you're going to be the average of the 5 people you hang around. Your income, your attitudes, everything. If you're around a bunch of divorced people and you're the only married person, there's a high statistic you're going to get divorced. Right? If you're making 75,000 a year and you have aspirations of doing six figures a year, but all your friends are 75 and under, the likelihood of you doing that is very low. You have to create these different ways, right, to change those influences, change that circle around you, change all of these things. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And these game of three rules are something that you can live by, and it's something that can profoundly change the way you view life. And it can help you live younger longer, because the way you're viewing life, it's going to be a life of happiness, a life of love, a life of gratitude, a life of servanthood. I believe we're put on this earth to serve, to give, right? To be a window of God's blessings to people that are around us. So here's rule number one. The past is perfect. Now, some of you guys might be laughing like, you don't know my past, right? Like, you say that, my past is far from perfect. But recognizing that the past is perfect. We can't change the past. No matter what you do, you can't change the past, right? You might have grown up in a very tumultuous childhood. And nothing you can do is change that. Now, what you do from this day forward, you can change, right? You have that power, but there are lessons within it. My wife, she grew up in a household where she witnessed a lot of drug and alcohol abuse and a lot of physical and verbal abuse to her mom. Luckily, she was not a piece of that. She just witnessed it a lot. She witnessed her mom get beat on. She witnessed her mom have a life of being either on alcohol or painkillers. Very, very disruptive is not even the right word, but very tumultuous childhood. Right. But she has a way now, because of that, to connect with people on such a compassionate level when someone else is going through something like that I don't have that skill set, right? Like, I'm a pretty black and white guy. I'm like, well, let's just fix the problem. Like, if that's not working, quit doing it, right? Like, I'm real black and white, sometimes too black and white. Like, I just want to say, okay, well, we can't fix that. Let's do this. And not having that moment to where we really stop and just have compassion and listen and being able to connect with someone on that level. My wife is amazing at that. I strive to be like that, right? I work on that. I'm constantly working on myself. But the past is perfect. So my wife and I started dating at 15 years old, right? We're freshmen in high school, started dating at 15. We got married at 20. This entire time, her mom was battling her addictions, right? And I don't believe, and this is my personal opinion, I don't believe that a lot of these addictions are illnesses. They're a choice. And I witnessed this with my mother-in-law. She had to choose every time she got in the car. There were times we had to do her finances for her, so she had to come over, lie about a way to get money, then go to the liquor store, buy the liquor, go home, and start drinking. There was 5-6 choices she made before she ever got to that point of having it. Now, I'm not saying addiction isn't real. Again, those neural pathways, those dopamine hits, those things we have in our brain that we've created, right? I'm not saying that you might not even, you might have a proclivity to it, right? And a desire for it because that's all you've ever known. But that doesn't mean you have to choose to do the behavior. We have that power of choice, right? But understanding this. So, like I said, my wife and I, there was a lot that we had to deal with at a very young age because her mother, when she was drinking, she was honestly the sweetest, most loving, caring person you've ever met sober, and the meanest, most hateful person you've ever met drunk. And it caused a lot of problems with us, and or caused a lot of issues that we had to deal with. I never knew, like, I remember saying sometimes, like, why do we have to deal with all this? This is garbage. Like, why is this a part of our life? We don't want this. But yet, my wife, to her mom, my wife's the only person that she has. Right. And so it's going down this weird road. Now, let's fast forward 20 years. Right. My son, who was 18 at the time, decided he wanted to start experimenting with some drugs and different stuff. And it wasn't he just wanted to experience it. And he got a hold of something that just whacked him out of his brain. I don't know what it was. He was hallucinated. He was saying all kind of stuff like it was, I still to this day don't know what it was, but his friends thought he was ODing. They called the ambulance. My son's not that big a guy, but yet it took over 4 people to even get him on the bed. Like, it was this craziness. And so I get called and I go up to handle it because, again, it triggered a lot of things in my wife from her childhood. And I didn't want her to see her son in that state. So I went and handled it. Now, because of the past, right? Because of this past that we went through, I ended up having this almost very, the only way I can describe it is this godlike peace and grace in the middle of it. It had to be from him, because in this calmness that I could just take care of the situation, because for 20 plus years, I've had to deal with those kind of situations. And so understanding, wow, like my past, some of the stuff in my past prepared me for the future, right? It prepared me for that. I shared on an earlier episode my whole experience in the Navy, and it was kind of the same thing. When I got separated from the Navy at 18 years old, I had my whole 4 years planned out, and I felt like the biggest loser ever. I thought I let down my parents. I let down myself. Vanessa and I were dating. I felt like I let her down. I felt like I let everybody down. I mean, I felt this big. But yet, if that wouldn't have happened, if that situation didn't happen, would me and my wife have stayed together those 4 years I was in the military? I don't know. Would we have almost a 30-year marriage? Would we have 3 amazing boys? Will we have these things? I don't know. So now I look back and I'm like, thank God that happened. But in the moment, it was horrible. But not allowing your past to dictate your future. That's the main goal and main point I want to get out of this rule. Don't allow your past to dictate your future, because even though my wife's, both of her parents were alcoholics, there's suicide that was involved in all of this. And there's a long line of alcoholics. You know what my wife's not? An alcoholic. And it's not to say she doesn't enjoy a glass of wine now and then, but she made the choice. It stops with me. It stops. I am not going to allow this curse of alcoholism to continue. I'm not going to continue it. And I'm not going to raise our boys in that kind of environment. Right? She made the choice. And we all have the choice that we can do to not allow our past to dictate our future. But how many people do you hear in today's world say that? They have every excuse in the world of why their life's not how it wants it to be. It's their sex, it's their gender, it's their color, it's their creed, it's their religion, it's everything you can think of. Everything. But yet, we've seen multiple examples throughout history of this country. None of that matters. You can choose to create the future you want. You can choose to create it. Or you can choose to allow the past to have power and dictate your future and keep you as a victim, to keep you from achieving those God-given dreams that you have within you. I believe if you have a vision, you have goals, you have dreams that God's puts in you, I believe he's given you every talent, right, to be able to achieve those dreams. So why don't more people go for it? They allow the excuses in their head. They allow their past performance. They allow all these things to literally dictate their future. And so they never take the chance. They never go for it. They never switch careers. Think about your job. If you're watching this and you hate your job, why do you go every day? Seriously, why do you go every day? It's a choice. It's a choice. There are millions of jobs out there. So why do people continue to go to a job day after day after day that they hate, instead of choosing to figure out a way to create new income, start a new business, whatever that might be, to get them out of that, or even start looking for a different job, right? It's a choice. The power that we have of choice, and that God's given us a free will, right? Like, we have the ability to do it. So don't allow your past to dictate your future. So again, in choosing, again, there's a choice to recognize I can't change the past, and the past was perfect. And some of those most difficult parts of your past has equipped you now to be a conqueror in the future. Right? That's what I really want to get by. It's a choice. Again, you can allow your past to dictate your future, or you can use it as a tool to propel you forward. Right? And use those gifts, those talents that God's put in you. So that's number one. Number two is choose to believe that every person, including yourself, is doing the very best that they know how with the tools and resources they have in the moment. Now, this was a hard one for me to wrap my head around sometimes because, again, when I used to see about some of the people in my life and wonder why they did what they did or acted how they acted, understanding this rule to where I could look back and say, at that moment, they did the best they knew how to do. They weren't doing it to be nasty, to be hateful, to be whatever, or to be discouraging, or to be whatever other negative that might be out there. They did the best they could with the tools and the resources that they had at the moment. Right. And a lot of people think they're especially people that give advice, right? Or try to tell you what you should be doing with your life. A lot of it's not out of something bad. It's not out of where they're trying to defeat you, right? Most of them do it with great intentions, not with bad intentions, with great intentions. They think they're helping with the tools and the resources that they have at the moment. And a lot of those people are given that kind of advice out of their past experience. And maybe you want to start a new business. Maybe you want to start a new home-based business. Let's just use that. That's my industry. I help people make money from home. And how many times do people say, I want to make some extra money from home? They get all excited. They join a company. And what happens next? Their spouse says, oh, that's a scam. You can't make money at that. Or their parents say, yeah, I tried that in the past. It doesn't work. Right now, I'm a guy telling you after 16 years and kind of living a life of independence, both on time and financially, I can look at this now and be like, well, it works. I made a lot of money in this industry and I was a normal guy like anybody else. I had all the excuses of why not to do it too. When I started our company, the company we've been with the last 16 years, I had 7 LLCs. We had 3 boys under the age of 8. We had business successes. We had business failures. I could have said, oh, I'm too busy. We had 7 LLCs and 3 little boys, right? Like a 40-hour week was part-time back in the day for me. But I wanted to create the change I was looking for. I wanted to be a present dad. I wanted to have my time back. And I knew my traditional businesses had me just wrapped up. And so, but I had everybody and their mother telling me or giving me advice or doing these things. And a lot of it they did that with very good intentions, not realizing that they were coming at me trying to steal the dream that I had in me. Right? I mean, we all know those dream stealers we have in our lives. They don't want you to go after it. Why? Because sometimes they were too scared to go after it. And it's not a conscious decision. It's unconscious that they're acting in this way. It's, again, those neural pathways that they've created. Now, the best thing about these neural pathways, guys, is that you can recreate them. You can break them and recreate them. But it's a choice. It's a choice. And again, I made this a part of this podcast because I believe this mental piece of how we live younger longer is huge. How many people that you know that talk about them being sick all the time, and they're sick all the time? I don't confess that, right? I don't confess it, right? A part of my confession every day is that, that how I am a king and creation of God, and that no weight, no excess fat attaches to my body. I'm living a young, healthy life. Right? That's what I want to program into my head, because I don't want to talk myself into being sick. I don't want to talk myself into being poor. Right? I don't want to talk myself into these things. And most of the most voice you're listening to on your daily basis is right here. It's those thoughts in your head. And sadly, we and I don't have the number ahead of me. I've studied it before, but the amount of negative thoughts that we have every day versus the positive thoughts we have is overwhelmingly negative. And I look at those as little weeds, right? Little weeds in our head. And if you don't understand how to pluck those weeds as soon as they come, you need to start being conscious of the words coming out of your mouth, because you don't want to be one of those people in other people's lives, right? That's that negative person, or talking them out of going for what they really want to go for. But again, understanding that the way you're reacting and the people around you are doing the very best they can, with the tools and the resources that they have in their life currently. It's not to say it can't change. I've changed a lot in the last 20 years. But it's making a choice to do that, and understanding that those people, they're acting in a way, and choosing to believe they're acting in the very best way they can. They're operating the very best they can with the tools and resources available to them. Because a lot of people, they don't go through any kind of personal development, or they don't go think about their mindset at all. They're just stuck in this rut of life. And so having that compassion to understand that. And the third one's a big for me. So rule number 3, right? So talked about the past is perfect. We talked about how the people in your life, including yourself, is operating with the very best that they can with the tools and resources they have at their disposal at that time. And number 3 is taking 100% responsibility. Now, this is a big one for me. I talk about this all the time. Taking responsibility. Where are most problems that we hear in the news today? It's always someone else's fault. Always someone else's fault, right? And so having that victim, that blame mentality, instead of taking 100% responsibility for yourself, 100% responsibility for your life, your health, your marriage, your parenting, your faith, your money, everything, taking 100% responsibility. Now, what is responsibility? It's the ability to respond. I think I shared this on a previous podcast, but it's an old equation from Jack Canfield that talks about E plus R equals O. There's an event, it's a response to that event that's going to equal the outcome. The response, responsibility, the ability to respond. Again, I brought up COVID earlier. We responded to that event in a way that scaled our business drastically. Other people responded to that event by going into a hole, being scared of everything, and going down a dark, dark hole. We all had the ability to respond in a different way, owning it. You know, when you talk about exercise, you can't hire someone else to do your push-ups, right? You got to get your butt up. You got to get to the gym. You got to think about what you're putting in your body, right? The supplementation that you put in your body and the food that you're putting in your body, owning it. Right? Do you realize type 2 diabetes is diet based? If you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic and you don't want to take insulin the rest of your life, guess what? You don't have to. Right? Change your diet, change your habits, change your workouts, get healthy. I don't mean to be blunt about that, but my gosh, that's all it is. I used to have a coworker and he used to talk about it. Yeah, I used to joke with him. I said, man, I bet I could help you get, not be type 2 anymore. And he's like, well, if I want to have a bowl of ice cream, I'll just take another shot. I'm like, no, right? No, that's not what you want, right? Let's get you off the shots. And it's just habits. It's lifestyle. It's dietary. It's all of that. But again, the ability to respond. How many times have you heard about people that have had say a cancer diagnosis? Some people respond where I'm going to die. That's it. Nothing I can do about it. And other people are like, I'm going to live and I'm going to figure this out. And they end up going to remission. They end up being cancer free, and other people end up dying. I believe a massive part of that is your mindset, how you choose to respond to that situation, responsibility, owning it. If you're not making as much money as you think you're worthy, you have a couple choices, right? Go to your boss, ask for a raise. And if he doesn't give you a raise, he doesn't think you're worthy of that. Find another job. Create new cash flow, right? There's a reason I'm so passionate about the direct sales and network marketing business, because it evens the playing field for people. You don't have to have large capital investment. You don't have to have education. You don't have to have experience. You don't have to have anything. You have to have the willingness and the desire to change your life. That's it. I mean, in this industry, I've had more coaching and mentoring from high level professionals for free that I used to have to pay for in our real estate investing. Right? I want to operate like those guys. I want to hang around them. I want to know how they think, how they respond, how they think about things, right? Owning it, having 100% responsibility. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he was talking about this friend group that he has, like a couple really close friends. He has like 4 or 5 really close guy friends. And like one of their rules is that you will not talk negatively about your spouse. Like when we're talking, we're in a group, we're one-on-one, you will not talk negatively about your spouse. How many of you guys are in kind of a, I don't want to say a toxic relationship because that can go in a lot of ways, but you know, where that passion, that love, that respect that for you and your spouse isn't there. But how many times are you knocking your spouse to your friends or to a parent, right? How many times are you really treating them like that person you fell in love with and that person that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with? Or are you looking at them as like they're a tired old bag, right? I was listening to a preacher the other day. He said, you know, sadly, too many men, they go out and they pursue their wife like they're pursuing some big game they're hunting, right? They'll do all the stuff when they're dating, man. They'll smell good, take a shower, put on a nice shirt, right? They'll go to places they never would go, right, as a single guy. But, you know, if your girlfriend wants to go there, you'll go there, right? All these things. And then they end up marrying them, right? They bag the game, right? They bag that trophy buck and they throw it on the wall and never look at it again, right? You should have the same desire emotionally and sexually for your spouse as you did when you got married. It should never leave. I chase my wife more around now than I ever have, right? I think she's the hottest thing on earth, right? Like I want all of those feelings to go toward her. And again, it's a choice. And I have done my best. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've done my best to talk about her in a way that is respectful, that she is my wife, she is my partner, she's my half, right? Like God says, when two become that one flesh. Well, if you're one flesh and you're disparaging your wife or your spouse, are you also disparaging yourself? Right? You're one, you're connected. You have that holy covenant that you've created. But again, it's owning the responsibility. Maybe your spouse is not acting in a way that you think. Maybe they're driving you crazy. Maybe they're doing stuff. Okay, what are you doing in that relationship? Are you adding on to it? Or have you decided to make the choice that I'm going to be the very best wife or husband that I can be? I'm not going to go down those holes. I'm not going to add fuel to the fire. I'm going to be the very best I can be. And it takes two, right? And sometimes that spouse wants nothing to do with it and they want to leave and I understand there are times that there's nothing you can do about it. But at the end of the day, if a divorce were to happen, can you literally sit back and say, I did everything I could to 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 be the very best spouse that I could to fix the situation and not go down that road? Can you look at yourself in the mirror straight in the eyes and say, I did the best I could? Because it starts here. It starts with you owning it. It's the same with your money. Again, same with your health, your relationships, your faith, everything. Are you taking 100% responsibility? And sadly, in today's world, victimhood is celebrated. And we see it all the time. We hear about people in the news that have made up crimes against themselves. So they're the victim and people will feel sorry for them because they think it's going to be celebrated. Right? How crazy is that? That we've gotten to a point in society where let me make some stuff up so I can be the victim. So people can say, woe is me. And they'll want to feel sorry for me and lift me up. And oh, poor baby. Right? No, that's garbage. It's garbage. I don't know where that shift happened to where victimhood is celebrated or elevated. I don't know where that happened, but we're in that part and you see it. That's where there's all these little factions everywhere, right? Because if someone is looking for a way to belong, if someone is looking for a way to fit in, there's going to be a group that will accept you. Be like, oh, yeah, I understand all of your problems. And yes, you are the victim and no one understands you. And they're going to play that game until you have a change of mind. And if you don't toe that line anymore, what happens? Right? You gone. But we see it all the time. You know, in so many areas we're talking about, excuse me, talking about gender, talking about marriage, talking about money, talking about all these things, race, right? There's a reason why there are people out there that want to keep people divided and arguing. Because if everyone's focused on that, they can stay in power. It's a game, guys. Learn the game, right? I'll never forget when my boys were young, there was that movie called Ants, right? That was out. And I'll never forget this scene because COVID reminded me of this. But the grasshoppers were taking all their stuff, right? The grasshoppers were the bad guys. So in this scenario, the grasshoppers were the government, right? Right. And they had all these ants. Us, we the people, were all the little ants. And yet you had these few in power, right? That were the grasshoppers. And there's a scene in there where this one main grasshopper was really pissed off because one of the ants stood up to him. And all the other ones around are like, why are you so upset? It's just one little ant. He can't do nothing to us, da, 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 you know. And he made a point. He said, if they realize that they had the numbers, basically they had the power, they could take it all away from them, right? Because there were so many more of them than there were of the ones in control. And that's what it reminded me during COVID. You know, my wife asked me, how long do you think people wear masks? I was not a mask wearer. I'll be straight up. I got people said stuff, whatever. Like I understood that little piece of cloth was doing nothing and I wasn't going to play the game. But yet, you know, she asked me that. I said, she goes, how long do you think this will go on? I said, until people are tired of it, until people decide they're not going to play the game anymore. How long do you think all these businesses are going to be closed? Until people decide it's enough. Think about if all the businesses reopened. You think the government could have came in and arrested and shut down everybody? But they out of fear, people played the game. And I get it at the beginning. No one knew what was going on. But I mean, my gosh, by 12 months in, 18 months in, 2 years in, it was pretty clear. But yet they still tried to have this control, right? Because people wanted power. That's why they want to dictate. So again, in all these situations, are you taking 100% responsibility for yourself? Owning it, owning your life, owning the good and the bad. You screw up, own it. Take responsibility. I've told my boys their whole life, if you're man enough to do something, be man enough to admit it. If you get caught doing something stupid, own it. Right? Own your actions. But yet, how many people they get caught in a situation, or we're seeing in our criminal justice system right now, right? Where there's this unhealthy empathy to people. And they're like, well, look at their circumstance and look at this and look at this and look at this. Oh, the poor criminal. They don't look at the victim. All right, well, let's feel sorry for the victim. They just got victimized. Right? Let's help them out. They look at the criminals and be like, they have this weird empathy about it where they just let them back out, let them back out, let them back out. And look at the crime rates and things that have happened. Instead of making the criminals own their actions, being accountable, being responsible for their actions. And we all have to live like that. We all have to. And if you can learn to live by this game of 3 rules and start changing those neural pathways in your brain with these 3 rules, to think about that, of how you're going to react, how you're going to respond. What is your responsibility? What is your responsibility? And you are 100% responsible for you, your life, your actions, your everything. I'm not saying stuff doesn't happen to you, but do you look at it as happening to you or for you? And that's a weird way to think about stuff too, because we've all had some really bad stuff happen in our lives. But did it happen to us? Well, now we can play victim. Or did it happen for us to teach us something to where now we're in a different headspace so we can be better, right? We can grow from it. and it doesn't own our lives. That situation doesn't control our lives 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. But we learned, okay, life's happening for me. It's happening for me. It's happening for me, not life's happening to me. And way too many people in today's world is saying, look what life's doing to me. Look what this person did to me, and this person did to me, and what my boss did to me, and what everyone else did to me. Right? All this stuff, life's happening for me or to me, to me, to me, to me, to me, to me, instead of it's happening for me. Right? I mean, you can look back. I remember my son, man, when he was, probably third, fourth grade, he loved school until he had this one teacher. This one teacher that probably should have retired a long time ago. And there was one time where she was so mad that she was yelling in his face, like literally like this, and spitting as she was talking. And that changed his whole perception of school. And I told him, I said, son, listen, she's just showing you how not to be, right? She's giving you the great example of what you don't want to be like, right? No one likes that nasty old person, right? That everything is just negative all the time, right? So there's these people in our lives. Sometimes it's to teach you how not to be. Or when you reach this level of leadership, I don't want to be a leader like that, right? I want to be a leader like this, right? I think Christ is one of the perfect examples of that servant leader, because there were times he didn't back down on his morals. He didn't back down when wrongs were happening, but yet he was that servant leader. He met people where they were. He didn't judge them. He met them where they were, helped to elevate them, right? And people are in leadership. There's some very great leaders. There's some horrible leaders, right? And we've seen it on all levels. So again, guys, game of 3 rules. Just to recap really quick, the past is perfect. The past is perfect. Number 2, that everyone around you, including yourself, is doing the very best that they can with the tools and the resources they have available to them at that time. And number 3, taking 100% responsibility of your life. This goes on to how you live your life. Do you want to live, again, a life of gratitude, of love, of fun, of happiness, right? Or do you want to live a life of destitute, of depression, of woe is me on everything, right? Living in this little dark little hole where nothing good ever happens. It will affect your longevity. It will affect how you live, how you age, how you view the world. Again, because I've been so blessed to be able to go to so many of these countries with our church, I am so grateful that I live in America where there's options open to everybody. There is nothing, if anyone's telling you that there's anything about you that is stopping you from creating the life of your dreams, get them out of your life. Because whatever aspect, they're trying to control your future. There are no limits here in this country. None. Everyone's equal. Everyone has the same opportunities. Now, we might come from different backgrounds, but let me tell you, there's been times, again, where I've been dead broke, not knowing where the next meal's coming from. Did I go blame everybody else for that? Or did I find ways to create new money? That's how I started my whole lawn and landscape service. I needed more money. And I was like, well, I got a lawnmower. I got some equipment. I could throw it all in the back of my truck. I can go cut some grass. I didn't sit at home watching Netflix being like, well, hopefully something will turn around. I took action. I took responsibility for my situation that I was in, and I created a new situation. And I created it where over the years, I've made millions of dollars cutting grass over the years. Right? I made a choice. I took responsibility for my situation. I didn't blame anyone else. No one else's fault. I was in that situation. It was my fault. I made choices, and it cost me. Right? I can't do it. I couldn't blame anybody else. I had to own it. And that's how my dad raised me, to own it, to own my life. Right. And so, guys, I hope this was of value to you. Again, if this is, please like and share it. Help get the word out. Like I said, I want to build a community where people on every aspect of their life is getting the most life out of every year they live on this earth. That's my passion. That's my whole power. If you guys need supplemental health help when it comes to that as well, wellness help, all that. That's what I do for a living. I'd love to be able to help you guys out. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I always love your comments and feedback. So let me know about it. But with that, guys, until next week, take care. God bless. We'll see you soon. Bye.